All right, hi everybody. Welcome to Trivera Tip Tuesday number 5. In case you missed it, number 4 last week was about leadership and employee communication during times of crisis. So if you didn't see it, check that out on our YouTube channel, or you can visit the resources section of Trivera.com. I'm Christina Stetter. I'm the EVP at Trivera, and this week we are talking to Julia Haas from Derse about how to replace those face-to-face interactions that are so important to your digital marketing plan, or your integrated marketing plan, I should say, but that can't be executed right now. So Julia, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Julia Haas. I'm the marketing director at Derse, and Derse is a face-to-face marketing agency and exhibit builder. We're based here in Milwaukee, right by Miller Park, and we've been around for about 72 years. We help our clients design, build, and execute trade show programs, branded events, and marketing environments, both across the country and abroad. Particularly in my role and my marketing team's role, we're in charge of all online and offline marketing initiatives for the company. So that includes everything from trade shows, print and direct mail campaigns, to digital and website, paid search, social marketing tactics for Derse. And that's how we met Christina and her team at Trivera.
Yeah, it's been great working with you over the past year on your website. And I think one of the things that we've really enjoyed is that our companies take a very similar approach to working with clients. It's just that the final execution ends up in a different space. You are planning a trade show or working on a corporate environment, and we end up in the digital space, but the thought process is really the same. And I think that we really both think that online and in person are both very important aspects of an integrated marketing plan. So let's set the stage for today's conversation. Julia, can you talk a little bit about how face-to-face marketing has historically fit into your clients' integrated marketing plans?
Yeah, to take a step back, the majority of our clients are B2B, so business to business focused. They are often selling very large considered services or products to their customers. They range in size from Fortune 100 companies to small and medium businesses. But because the B2B nature of what they're offering, there's the complexity of the decision making of that purchase is really important. So we know through research and actually our own experience, because we're a B2B company, that it takes a number of touch points and many different decision makers to make a purchase decision. And so that's where really the integrated marketing mix comes into play. We know that digital marketing does a great job of driving brand awareness and lead generation, and as well as lead nurturing. If you do it well, and if you can offer really good content and information to your customers. But when you're delivering such a large product decision to a potential client, face-to-face becomes extremely important, whether it's through events, trade shows, or client meetings. You're not just selling a product, you're really selling a relationship that's built off of trust and emotional connection. So you really need to combine the two in a meaningful way to be successful.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We know that, if you're selling black shoes, a transaction is really fairly simple, but anything that requires knowledge transfer or is complicated or has a long sales cycle, you really do need that digital component or something to start that, but you have to have the face-to-face at the end. And we know that from Google has shared this information with us, that it takes 8 to 12 searches generally before anyone is willing to reveal themselves to a brand. And that's even true in the B2B space, which is becoming more consumer-like in the way the purchases are made. And these are the kinds of things that used to happen over a cup of coffee or maybe an initial sales call. But now these interactions are happening online and then transitioning into the physical space. However, you still need that physical space. And this is, I think, what's having trade show participants worried. So what do you think that people are most worried about now that these trade shows have all been canceled?
Yeah, I mean, the first and foremost, the majority of our clients go to trade shows to either meet new customers or really nurture relationships. Oftentimes, they're even there to close a deal, right? So now that entire channel of building relationships with customers has been removed, at least for the short term. So they're trying to figure out, how do I still engage with a potential customer when I can't be face to face and have those really meaningful conversations? You know, what else can we be doing to engage those leads? So that's probably their biggest concern right now. I would say the other concern is that it takes an extensive amount of time and investment and planning to build out content for live events. So think about the number of touch points at a live event, whether it's music, video content, branded graphics, the engagements that happen in real time. All of those investments are now kind of sitting and waiting. And so our clients are wondering, what can they do with all of that investment right now? So those are the two really main areas that our clients are concerned about. And that's where we've started having conversations with them about shifting to digital experiences or virtual experiences.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense, because staying in touch is really important. I mean, people want to know, are you open? Are you not open? What capacity do you have to deliver services? How is all this remote working impacting timelines and ability to deliver? And so taking those assets and turning them into something that can be shared can be really beneficial. But let's say I am a trade show planner. This is what I do all day long. That's kind of overwhelming. How do you decide? How do you get started thinking about if you should even do this?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. You know, we're going through the same thing. I think most businesses are, right? Of wanting to react to what's happening, but not overreact. So, you know, we don't recommend doing a complete 180 of your marketing mix investments right now, without starting with the research and listening to what your customers need. So hearing their concerns, hearing what information or resources that would be helpful to provide, using social listening or website data to understand how your audiences are interacting. Because once you understand what content you can provide to them that will be helpful and relevant, then you can determine what is the best channel in which to get that to them. So that's where we suggest starting, is by taking a step back and listening to what your customers need, how they're interacting or engaging with you right now, and then determining how to move forward in terms of the channel mix.
And it makes a lot of sense. You know, I think a lot of times people often start with a plan that's really, we should do a virtual event. Well, that's not a plan. That is a reactionary tactic to something that's going on around you. And I get it. And being reactionary to an extent isn't a bad thing. I mean, you should react to what's going on around you, but you also need to be a bit planful about it, so that you're not just doing something to do it. You need to have a why for everything that you do. And, you know, so at Trivera, we talk about looking at things like website analytics, search volume data, advertising metrics, email open rates, and all of those kinds of things that can tell you historically, how did you transfer knowledge to people? How did you help them? And what worked? What drew people to you in the first place? And you would measure all of these things, plus time on site, downloads of critical documents, and all sorts of other conversion points, so that you could understand, how do people get information from my brand, and how do I help? But at a time like this, it's also really important to recognize that historical data needs to be combined with current trends. So as an example, we know that because everybody's online, email open rates are really high right now. Video views are really high right now. And add all of that to the changes that Google is constantly making in their algorithms. We know Google changed their algorithm over 3,200 times last year. So that changes the way people are searching for things. I was just on a webinar last week where I learned that in the healthcare space, 68% of searches are zero click, which means that someone types something into the search bar and the answer that they need appears right on the search engine results page. You do not need to click through to any websites. So you have to really think about what is going on in the world, and then also how can you best be helpful. So maybe I've thought through all of this. I know what my value is and I know why I should be doing it. And I want to
Mhm.
try a more virtual experience. As someone who just figured out their very first webinar a month ago, I can say for sure that it is an overwhelming experience. So how do you start turning a trade show into a virtual experience? What's the first step?
Yeah, that's a great question. And noticed about 3 or 4 weeks ago when we all started working from home, the mass amounts of emails and advertisements I received for virtual event providers. And it was beyond overwhelming. I mean, there's platforms, there's services, there's so many different ways to look at it. And so it is overwhelming. And so that's where we like to start with our clients, is just laying the foundation for what's available. So we help them sift through the different types of live experience, or virtual experiences that you could consider. You know, whether it's recreating a virtual exhibit, or doing a live, press conference, or recreating an entire educational conference. The span of virtual experiences is quite broad. So we like to break them down into different buckets and let them kind of absorb and understand what their options are. Then we take a step back, and you even said this before, start with the why. Why would we offer a virtual experience versus maybe wait until we can do a live experience? So some of the things that we challenge our clients to think about while we're helping them bring something to life, we first start with the audience, of course, because we want to be audience-centric and customer-centric. So we think about who are our audiences, how many different types of audiences do we have, and why would they want to come to us and create that virtual experience with us? So with so many people online right now, you mentioned that before, email rates are open, social media usage is high, there is a scarcity of attention. And so we want to make sure, if we're focused on our audience, we're giving them something that is worthy of their attention. So that leads into thinking about the content. Do we have content created? Do we need new content developed based on new messaging with what's happening in the world today? What types of content do we have that would be valuable that they can't find elsewhere through a Google search or through another provider? So is it thought leadership? Is it education? Is it data they can't find elsewhere? And then thinking about things like delivery. How will we actually deliver this virtual experience to our audiences? Will it be live? Will it be on demand? Will it be recorded? Is it a mix of all three? And then how will we measure engagement? The beauty of face-to-face is that you can really see an engagement happening as it comes to life, like in real time. With digital and virtual events, how can you recreate those engagements in real time in a meaningful way? So how do you measure them? And how do you actually get people to attend this virtual experience? So thinking about promotion, how will you promote it and get their attention before the experience even happens? So that's how we kind of like to start with the foundation of what you can do, and then take a step back and answer some of those questions, which will save you time in the future as you start building out that experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, I think. And I think the benefit of all this planning is then you know exactly what to measure. You talked about measurement and engagement. And that's really important because especially if you're trying something new for the very first time, you want to know, did it work? And if you think about all of this stuff in advance, you can set up your engagements so that you know if you got ROI on it, you know how many people you met, you know how many people attended your virtual trade show booth, and how many downloads you got, and did you get any prospects out of this? And you need to think about all of those types of conversions and where they're going to happen. We talk at Trivera about macro and micro conversions. So a lot of people will always only think about that final conversion, the contact us form or the RFP submission. And that's a macro conversion. But we also like to think about micro conversions, because that macro conversion, if you expect someone to do that the first time they visit your website, that is like asking someone to marry you on the first date. It's a little creepy and it's just not going to happen. And if it does, you should get up and run. So really what we look for are micro conversions, things that show intent that they're interested in you, but want to continue to move down the sales funnel and maybe have a second date. So do they view a video? Do they visit a key page on the site? Things like that. And that can really help you see if the steps that you took helped nurture this relationship with your prospect. And as Julia mentioned, then of course you always have to look at all of the marketing. So one thing I do want to mention to everybody is if you are one of the thousands of companies in this country who has kind of a messy database, now is a great time to clean that up, because you can use your database for so much other than just following up with your current customers. You can use it to create lookalike audiences. You can use it for social media targeting. And so there's a lot of things that you can do if you are planful about what you're trying to achieve with the virtual experience, because you will know what you're trying to do. So we're getting ready to wind up, but do you have any last tips for us, Julia?
Yeah, I would say two things that we're talking to our clients about all the time that we love offering up as well. And that's really thinking about thought leadership right now. So some companies are really at a pause, and our trade show managers may not have trade shows to attend. Some marketers may be kind of waiting to hear what's going to happen. And so use this time to either be a thought leader or use your thought leaders that you have in your network. So your agencies like us, like Trivera, your partners, vendors, they're in the same boat, and they want to share all of their knowledge with you and your teams. And so I think it's kind of a win-win. We like to share our knowledge like we're doing today. You can add value within your organization because you can educate your teams on the things that you've been working on. And so really it feels like a win-win to take advantage of thought leadership and inspiration right now. So use your vendors and your partners to do that. Collaborate together and share knowledge. That's just something we kind of live by at Derse, and we encourage others to do. The only other thing I'd say is that, when we talk about our integrated marketing mix today, we talk about melding online and offline and making sure it's cohesive and messaging is really true to your audiences. Think about what you could be doing in your place of business, whether it's your corporate headquarters, your briefing programs, your innovation centers. There's so much of both the digital space and your trade shows and events that could actually really complete the customer experience at your place of business. As trade shows and events are canceled or postponed in Q2 and Q3, we may see a shift towards people bringing their customers into their place of business more often. And wouldn't you want your brand to come to life there just as much as it does on your website or on the trade show floor? So think about using all of that digital content you have, your trade show assets, and bring them into your personal space so you're completing that customer experience across the entire journey. So those would be the two other things I suggest right now. We're certainly, doing the same thing at Derse today.
Yeah, that's great. And I think if you're going to take any of your assets and use that to update your physical space, be sure to document that. So many people forget to do that, but if you're transitioning or doing something to improve the customer experience, what great fodder for your social feed. You can put in there about how excited you are once you get to see people again. And then, of course, don't forget to update your website so that people can see what you've done. And if you are doing a virtual event, be sure to provide custom landing pages, custom thank you pages, and think about how you're going to follow up afterwards. And think about that before the show, not afterwards. So are you going to use HubSpot or Campaign Monitor or something to have those integrated workflows? I think really the bottom line is we both know face-to-face, as evidenced by the fact that we're in two separate locations, just isn't possible. But digital can replace some of it. Maybe nothing replaces face-to-face, but now is the time to really think about integrating your marketing strategy. If it wasn't integrated before, this is the time to make that happen. So balance your online and your offline strategies so that you have the ability to help and educate prospects no matter what is going on in the world. And even if it makes you a little uncomfortable, it's okay, give it a try. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. I promise you won't die. So So that's it for today, but starting with next week's Tip Tuesday, we're going to be talking about various aspects of digital advertising, and that is going to be a follow-up to a webinar that we are hosting this Thursday called How to Plan Your Digital Advertising Strategy. So if you're interested in learning more on how to get started with digital advertising, visit Trivera.com and scroll down on the homepage and you can register for the event. So Julia, I want to thank you so much for all your knowledge and for being here with me today and talking about this. I really appreciate it. So thank you and goodbye.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.